Symmetry, match cuts, miniatures, impeccable costumes, sets, fonts. I'm talking extra bold Futura, Didot, Helvetica, Bill Murray. He's not a font, just a funny guy, great performer, and he's perfect in his Wes Anderson roles. These are just a soupçon of the qualities we love about Wes Anderson's filmography. Yes, these movies are quirky, but it isn't all aesthetic. Every detail is buttressed by a ton of heart and layered characterization. Every one of Wes Anderson's movies are among the greatest of the last 25 years. That's exactly why today's task is going to be a huge challenge. How does one rank such a great selection of movies? All of these flicks are great, so it's really going to come down to our personal preferences, rationalized with a bit of analysis. If the ranking bugs you, just think of this as a list of reasons why you should watch all of Wes Anderson's filmography. Each entry on this list shows off the skills and qualities that make Wes Anderson the legend that he is. Let us know your rankings down below. What's your favorite Wes Anderson movie and why? Stick around, we're gonna rank all of these beautiful artsy movies.
I want us to make this trip a spiritual journey where each of us seek the unknown.
Find something you love to do and then do it for the rest of your life.
I know I haven't been at my best this past decade.
Number 9. The Darjeeling Limited.
You don't love me! Yes, I do!
I love you too, but I'm gonna mace you in the face! Stop!
Three brothers on a train in India in search of some kind of closure to the unprocessed grief of their father's death. It's a heartfelt comedy in a bustling, colorful, cramped setting. I love the dynamic between all three brothers, but especially Owen Wilson. I never really liked Owen Wilson until I saw his work with Wes Anderson.
Wow.
He's hilarious and able to bring a ton of aloof emotional depth to his character in Darjeeling Limited. I can't help but laugh and pity his beat-up face throughout this movie. Honestly, my only complaint is that I want more of it. I want to spend more time with these three brothers and further unpack their shared emotional suppression. Nonetheless, it's a tight 90-minute movie with a lot of laughs packed in, as well as some genuine emotional depth. Number 8. Isle of Dogs.
I wish somebody spoke his language.
今からお前たちは僕の犬だ。Sit.
Well, I understood that. Sit down.
Who doesn't love dogs? Wes Anderson has a thing for miniatures, which is gonna come up at least a couple of times in this video. For me, Isle of Dogs felt like one of his most visually detailed films, no doubt due to the fact that it's his second time working with tiny little stages. Personally, I prefer the films of his that mix miniatures with live action, but hey, there's no denying that this movie is a feast for the eyes. It's also minuscule, meticulously built. This movie has gotten a bit of criticism for appropriation of Japanese culture due to the fact that the Japanese language isn't subtitled, rather it's dubbed by an actor or robo-voice. I'm not the best person to speak on this, but there definitely is room for discussion about the nature of translation and miscommunication in this film. Considering that Anderson is such an intentional creator, the dubbing is certainly a purposeful decision. Whether that's a good decision, I don't know. Moeko Fuji on the topic of Isle of Dogs says, Anderson's decision not to subtitle the Japanese speakers struck me as a carefully considered artistic choice. Translation is malleable and implicated always by systems of power. The film shows the seams of translation. Definitely take some time to read Moeko Fuji's piece in The New Yorker on this film if you'd like to hear a take from someone more informed on the topic of Japanese culture and film. Number 7, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I understand what you're saying and your comments are valuable, but I'm going to ignore your advice.
The cuss you are.
Look, I don't mean for Anderson's animated work to rank lower on the list than the rest. They're really good. The fact that this is only number 7 speaks to the immense quality of all of Anderson's movies. This is Wes Anderson's first foray into the fully animated miniature realm, the tiny zone. A lot of Wes Anderson's movies feel like a storybook come to life, and Fantastic Mr. Fox is literally that. It's based on a Roald Dahl book by the same name, and no offense Willy Wonka, but this is in my opinion the best doll to live action adaptation. It's funny, it's whimsical. Take a screenshot of any moment of this flick and you've got your new favorite wallpaper. It's also got my favorite Wes Anderson soundtrack, a fun mix of jangly folk music and retro alternative pop. This was also the first Wes Anderson movie I ever watched since I was like 9 years old when it came out. I didn't really get it then, but I enjoyed it a lot more now as an adult. It's in that weird liminal space between kids movie and adult movie, and that's one thing that I really love about it. Number 6, Bottle Rocket.
Rendezvous at the checkpoint in 6 minutes, okay?
Checkpoint, 6 minutes, guys.
Checkpoint!
Where's that man? Where's that man?
That's Applejack, come on!
Wes Anderson's first feature-length film, and in my opinion, his most hilarious. It's not his most stylized, but there's definitely subtle notes of his future signature look. The writing is still just as strong as his other movies. It's one of those movies where every joke lands and gets funnier with every rewatch. Owen Wilson steals the show as an airheaded man-child looking for some adventure in his life. But there's also a lot of heart and sincerity to this movie. The relationship between Anthony and Inez is cute and funny, especially because of their language barrier.
That's what I call a language barrier.
And while Wilson's character Dignan is easy to laugh at, he's also very pitiable. At its core, Bottle Rocket is about a bunch of young people who just want a place where they belong. Some want love, some just want to pull off a big heist. Number 5, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Don't point that gun at him. He's an unpaid intern.
Bill Murray plays a completely lovable jerk in this movie, and his role is beautifully contrasted by the wholesome performance from Owen Wilson. In a way, The Life Aquatic is in one of my favorite little movie subgenres, movies about making movies. Steve Zissou is a washed-up ocean documentarian on the hunt for the shark that ate his friend Esteban. I always love to see how great directors depict the filmmaking process in their movies, and what making a movie reveals about the central characters. I also love the way Wes Anderson depicts the ocean, and I feel that open water and cramped cabins complement Anderson's storybook miniaturized style. This film is definitely on the lower end of the scale in terms of critical reception. However, I just love the look and I love the characters. Shout out to the costumes, especially the way they make Willem Dafoe look like an old Boy Scout. Number 4, Rushmore.
So you were in Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah?
Were you in the shit?
Yeah, I was in shit.
Rushmore centers around a gross, self-centered, overachieving little dork who thinks he's too good for every human being around him. Max Fisher, played by Jason Schwartzman in his first major role, is completely unlikable and cringy. But his characterization is deeply compelling. I knew kids like this, I think we all did. He's the antisocial, gifted kid who is also too good to finish any important life task. And watching his massive ego get in the way of his many opportunities is impossible to look away from. It's also hilarious, largely due to Bill Murray's role as Herman Bloom. Look at him. Doesn't he look exactly like your one buddy's dad? Murray re-established himself as something of an indie film darling after this performance, receiving tons of praise from critics and moviegoers. Number 3, Moonrise Kingdom.
I love you, but you don't know what you're talking about.
Another signature of Wes Anderson's work that we haven't touched on yet is the way he writes his kid characters. They're just as deeply and emotionally layered as any adult character. They're written like fully fleshed out people, which is sorely lacking in a lot of stories featuring kids. Sam and Susie are in love and they're on the run. They've got a secret pact to build out a life together that the adult world won't let them have. For once, Anderson's main characters are desperate to escape the meticulously crafted world of his film in favor of a life surrounded by jagged natural landscapes. It's an adventurous storybook come to life, supported by unforgettable performances from Edward Norton as the Scoutmaster and Bruce Willis as the police chief. Number 2, The Grand Budapest Hotel.
You filthy goddamn pockmarked fascist assholes! Take your hands off my lobby boy!
Wes Anderson's most epic undertaking so far, a caper heist set in old Europe after the First World War. Renaissance paintings, an opulent hotel, political unrest, a huge family fortune, and budding young romance caught in the middle of it. This movie features some of the greatest sets and costumes I've ever seen brought to life on screen, and it's no surprise that designer Milena Canonero took home the Oscar for Best Costumes the following year. The aesthetic is so on point. Grand Budapest also features just about all of the Wes Anderson regulars in the cast: Jeff Goldblum, Willem Dafoe, Jason Schwartzman, Adrian Brody, Owen Wilson, Bill Murray's cameo, and so many more. It is a blast to see so many all-stars play together in this beautifully crafted world. I especially love Wes Anderson's use of aspect ratios to tell the story. It's really unique. And on top of that, this movie also has, in my opinion, the best use of miniatures in any of his work. I could talk about this movie forever, and honestly, it could easily swap places with number 1 on any given day. But today is not that day. Number 1, The Royal Tenenbaums.
I've had a rough year, Dad. I know you have, Jazzy.
The Royal Tenenbaums was the first of Anderson's movies to receive Academy Award attention, being nominated for Best Screenplay. It's written by Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson, and the story is about a wealthy family and their estranged father desperate to weasel his way back into his children's lives. Without spoiling anything for folks who haven't seen this movie yet, it features some of the darkest moments in any of Wes Anderson's films, as well as one of the most emotionally cathartic endings of the bunch. Despite this being a film about a family going through a lot of pain, it still manages to be laugh-out-loud funny, without undercutting that emotional core. Gene Hackman completely steals the show as the narcissistic father Royal Tenenbaum himself. But every character is incredibly well realized. Ben Stiller as the anxiety-ridden, bitter Chaz Tenenbaum, Gwyneth Paltrow and Luke Wilson as Margot and Richie Tenenbaum, who share a taboo secret love. I especially like Bill Murray as Margot's concerned psychologist spouse. And all of that narrated by Alec Baldwin's buttery voice. It's an absolute classic. This list was like ranking which gold bar is best polished. It's gotten me even more eager to see The French Dispatch when it comes out. All of Wes Anderson's movies are a must-watch for any movie enjoyer. I had a ton of fun sitting back and rewatching all of them in order. What do you think? Have you seen The French Dispatch yet? Where does it rank? How do you rank this pile of perfect movies? Let us know down below.